Have you ever wondered why it becomes increasingly difficult to understand your own children as they grow older? Sometimes it seems like you are speaking the same language, but from different sides of the river. The words seem familiar, but their meaning eludes you. And in this silence between the lines, it is not understanding that arises, but resentment. Today we will explore why children distance themselves from their parents, why notes of irritation appear in their voices, why conversations become increasingly rare and shorter. But even more than that, we will talk about how to change this, how to reestablish dialogue, hear each other, and find a way forward, not backward. A new form of closeness, where there will be less control and resentment, but more respect and genuine contact. It will be a warm, honest, and perhaps healing conversation. Make yourself comfortable. I invite you on a journey to understanding. A century is like a river, and a generation is like its bend. A century is like a big river. It flows, bends, erodes the banks, and forms new channels. And each generation is a bend in this river, its own perspective, its own path, its own depth. What is an anchor for one may be a sail for another. You grew up in an era where stability, self-denial, and sacrifice were valued, where the personal was often sacrificed for the collective, where silence was considered a virtue and strictness a manifestation of love. Your child is a child of a different world, a world where openness, self-awareness, and the search for meaning are valued, where they teach you to talk about your feelings, not to suppress pain, but to live through it, where being yourself is no longer a luxury, but a necessity for the survival of the soul. You say, the main thing is to be reliable, restrained, and not complain. And the child replies, the main thing is to be alive, to feel, to say what hurts. This is not rebellion. It is a different language. He is not against you. He is about himself. Carl Gustav Jung wrote, each generation must live its own truth. Otherwise, it will repeat the tragedies of the past. This is true, but it is also true that one generation can become a bridge for another, if its words are not condemnation, but interest. The origins of misunderstanding, the rift between mother and child, never happens suddenly. It begins imperceptibly, in a half-tone, in intonation, in an unexpressed feeling. Often it has its roots in something that neither of them chose, in the experience of previous generations, in what the mother herself did not receive from her parents. When a mother says, I do everything for you, these words may be motivated not only by love, but also by pain. The pain of a woman who was once unheard, a woman who is used to earning attention through care. And now, when her child grows up and moves away, she feels it not as a natural stage, but as a betrayal. Psychologists call this intergenerational transmission of scenarios. The way a mother shows her love is the language that was once spoken to her. If in her childhood warmth was associated with control, care with sacrifice, and closeness with dependence, she may unconsciously pass this on, even if she wants better. Psychoanalyst Eric Berne, in his theory of transactional analysis, said that each of us carries within us a parent, an adult, and a child. Often, when addressing a child, a mother speaks not from the state of an adult, but from that of a wounded child, wanting to finally receive the love that she herself was once deprived of. But a child cannot be a parent to their parent. This is where the internal conflict arises. This is how the first crack is formed. The mother feels that she is not appreciated. The child feels that he is not accepted. And both feel that they are not being heard. But in order to understand, we must first stop and remember where we're coming from love or from pain. Expectations versus reality. When a woman becomes a mother, not only is a child born inside her, but also an image of that child, warm, bright, future-oriented. She thinks she already knows what he will be like, how he will laugh, how he will go through life, how he will one day say, "Thank you, Mom, you were right." But the real person who comes into this world does not always match this image. He is separate. He does not come to fulfill a script, but to live his own story. And this is where the most difficult part begins, encountering not a dream, but reality. Why does it hurt when children don't follow our script? because we put our heart and soul into that script, because we believe that it would be right, safe, and good, because we often confuse our love with the desire to protect, guide, and correct. But love does not seek its own. True love is not control, but accompaniment. It's like walking alongside a ship without taking the helm. The philosopher Martin Buber wrote, "A person becomes, I only in dialogue with you." But often a mother does not speak to you, but to an image, to that ideal daughter in a pink dress who lives only in her expectations. And the real daughter is in black sneakers, with brushes in her backpack, and a heart that wants to speak with her own voice. This is not betrayal. This is growing up. This is the moment when a mother learns to let go not of love, but control. And if at that moment she says, "I don't understand, but I'm here for you," she will become a real support for her child, not a shadow of a script. A mother's feelings and her fears. When a child grows up, an era ends with them. The one whom mom carried in her arms, put to bed, nursed when they had a cold, and comforted when their first dream was shattered, disappears. And then one day, they no longer hold your hand. They no longer ask for advice. They no longer tell you who they went out with. They close the door, not out of malice, but out of a need to be themselves. And what rises in a mother's heart is not anger. No, it is fear. Fear of no longer being needed. Not the first person they run to when they have a problem. Not the center of a universe. This fear hides behind phrases like, "You've changed. Your friends are more important to you. You become a stranger." But beneath them lies the silence of lost intimacy. French philosopher Simone Weil said, "Love always implies absence. Without distance, there is no encounter. But this distance is most painful for a mother. After all, when her child was born, she invested her whole self in him. And now, as he leaves for his adult life, she feels as if a part of her is leaving too. Instead of acknowledging this pain, control often comes. Judgment, reproach. Mom doesn't criticize her son's friends because they are bad. She is simply afraid that he will become closer to them than to her. She is afraid of losing her place in his world forever. But closeness is not a struggle for attention. It is trust. When mother says honestly, "I'm sad that we don't talk as much anymore," it is not weakness. It is the courage to be real. And in this vulnerability, the child may see for the first time not a strict parent, but a living person, and want to come back, not out of coercion, but out of love. The child's feelings and his loneliness. In childhood, a child's heart is open, like a window thrown wide open. He runs with a drawing, shows a stick he found in the yard, and says, "Mom, look." And at that moment, his world is you. But what happens when, instead of a sincere look, he encounters irritation, detachment, or an indifferent later? The child's world begins to shrink. Slowly, almost imperceptibly. He learns that feelings are uncomfortable, conversations are unnecessary, and the truth is dangerous. And then they fall silent. At first, just a little. Then completely. Not because they don't love, but because they don't feel heard. Psychologists call this emotional isolation, when a child is physically present, but internally alone with themselves. His silence is not rebellion. It is a form of defense. When he says, "Everything is fine," he may be screaming inside, "I am alone." Understand me, hear me, but he is afraid that it will not work again. One boy at a psychotherapist's office said, "When I told my mom how much school hurt me, she said to put up with it. And when I stopped telling her, she accused me of being insensitive. I don't know how to deal with her." This is loneliness, not when there's no one around, but when there are people around who do not want to see what is inside you. A child opens up where they feel accepted. Not advice, not control. Just a simple human, "I'm here, tell me." This is what turns strangers into loved ones. It turns a child into a person. It turns a mother into a companion, not a controller. The line between care and control. A mother's love can be as warm as the sun, and just as dangerous if it stops warming and starts burning. Where care imperceptibly turns into control, internal conflict arises. For the mother, anxiety. For the child, suffocation. You say, I know what's best. You really want what's best. But a person cannot grow if their path is paved with someone else's fears. Eric from wrote, care is a desire for another person to grow and develop in their own way. Not yours. Not the ones that are safe, familiar, and socially approved. But their own, unknown, risky, possibly wrong. Control is often disguised as love. Dress warmer. But you don't know how they feel in those clothes. Get a normal job. But you don't ask what he dreams of. Who are your friends? But you're not interested in why he needs these people. Control is an attempt to manage another person's life out of fear of losing influence. Care is the ability to entrust your life to another person, even if it doesn't go according to your plan. The flip side of love. Love is a force that creates and preserves, but also has a dark side. Why do we so often hurt those we love the most? Where do these words that cut the soul and the silence that chills the heart come from? The answer lies in a deep fear of loss. When we are attached to a person with all our soul, when their departure seems like the end of the world, an internal struggle begins between the desire to keep them close and the fear of being rejected. This fear sometimes causes us to say hurtful things, even though what we really want is to be heard and understood. Psychologists call this the phenomenon of love anxiety, when closeness and dependence become a source of insecurity. We lash out at those around us because it is with them that we feel vulnerable. Silence is also a wound. It is unspoken words and unresolved conflicts that accumulate inside, like a shadow that grows and darkens. Silence creates distance, sometimes more than open conflict. To overcome the downside of love, it is important to remember that we hurt not because we do not love, but because we are afraid of losing. Only openness and sincerity can bring warmth back into a relationship. Love is not only light, but also darkness, which must be accepted and lived through together. Practical steps, what you can start doing right now. It often seems that restoring a connection with a child is like building a bridge across a turbulent river. But a bridge is not built in a day, and not with a single stone. It is made up of small, patient steps. Here's what you can start doing right now to make that bridge stronger. 1. Speak from the heart, not from a position of authority. Words are not just sounds, but vibrations of the soul. Instead of reproaches, try saying, I'm worried and want to understand you better. Instead of, why do you always do things your own way? These phrases are like keys that open the locks on closed doors. 2. Learn to listen without interrupting or judging. When a child speaks, your task is not to respond immediately, but to accept their world for at least a minute. It's like entering someone else's house. First look around, feel the atmosphere, before changing anything. Try to retell what you have heard in your own words. I hear that it is important to you, and ask if you have understood correctly. This gives a feeling of security and understanding. 3. Questions are the best means of dialogue. Instead of giving instructions, ask open-ended questions. What is important to you right now? How do you see our communication? What do you expect from me? Questions invite the child to search together, rather than defend themselves. 4. Create new communication rituals. These could be walks without phones, dinners together without distractions, or even short conversations before bedtime. Rituals are like anchors that help you stay connected despite the winds of disagreement. 5. Recognize your child's right to make mistakes. Mistakes are not failures, but life lessons. When you show that you accept their experiences, even if you don't like them, you build trust. This path is not easy. It requires patience and inner work. But remember, a bridge built on understanding and love will withstand any storm. You are the architect of this connection, and every step you take is a contribution to a world where your child feels heard and accepted. 2 truths that can coexist. There is not always one truth. Sometimes it is like a mirror broken into pieces. Each piece reflects a part of the whole. Your perspective is about experience, pain, and the desire to protect. And the child's perspective is about freedom, searching, the desire to breathe their own air. And you know what's most important? They are not mutually exclusive. Your truth is not outdated. His truth is not wrong. They are simply different. But both are alive, warm, and real. You are the root. Your children are the branches. And even if the branches bend in unpredictable directions, they still draw strength from your presence. And it is precisely because they feel this strength that they dare to go their own way. This is not betrayal. It is gratitude expressed through freedom. Don't be afraid to let go. Your love will not weaken. It will become a space in which trust is born. After all, the stronger the roots, the more courageously the tree reaches for the sky. Question for you: how does this resonate in your heart? Have you ever had moments when you let go and saw your child suddenly come back closer than before? What helped you here, even if you didn't understand? Share in the comments. Your experience is important. It can become not just a story, but a bridge from one heart to another. If you liked this video and found it useful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support inspires us and helps us continue to create the content you need. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.